I am Marcus with That Nerd Show. We are speaking with Michael, Lauren, and David about Project Blue Book. So this is always so fascinating to us as a nerd outlet, talking about UFOs. So I gotta start with, how did this project, how did this project come to you and why?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, for me, I've been a searcher for, the question of are we alone in the universe for as long as I can remember. And I don't think you can look at that question without studying the UFO issue. So for me, I actually started, before I looked at the history of UFOs, I was really obsessed with just sort of what was going on presently. And this is back in like the 90s, reading all the books,
right,
and watching all the videos and documentaries. But it was really when I began to look into, America's very strange and mysterious and kind of clandestine history with this subject matter, particularly through the eyes of Project Blue Book, and which really was a U.S. Air Force sponsored investigation into this phenomena, particularly when I learned that, the chief scientific advisor assigned to the program, a UFO skeptic and astrophysicist, completely switched sides and became a believer. I was like, there's something here, there's really something here. And the more digging you do into history, the more incredible the story becomes. And eventually I was, fortunate enough to be able to kind of put that to paper and try to turn that into a television series where it's based on real life cases.
Right. Well, it's interesting because we do have tons of documentaries, but we don't have any dramas as, actual dramas based on Project Blue Book.
Exactly. Yeah, correct. Exactly.
Now, for each of you, did you guys know much about UFO phenomenon before you came to this project?
I'd skirted the surface, but I honestly didn't know much about Project Blue Book itself, even though I grew up very near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Really?
Yeah, I grew up in Ohio, pretty close to Dayton, a little town called Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Okay.
And used to drive past it all the time. And I actually went back when I was doing the research and, talked with some Air Force people and flew a plane.
I love that you did that. I think that's amazing.
Me too.
I didn't tell any of them.
We found out after the fact. Like,
shut it down.
What?
Yeah,
right. Well, because he plays this very courageous pilot, and so here he goes going method.
As people will see in the first episode, there is some flying of planes, and I wanted to feel what it was like to go at 3-4 Gs and to feel what some of those maneuvers were like, and so I went up with an Air Force guy, obviously.
Oh, wow.
As well, but I did fly it myself for most of the time we were up there.
Nice. How about you? Do you know much about all this?
Sadly, no, which is, I think there'll be a lot of people out there like that, and that's, I think the fascinating thing about our show is that this was a real slice of American history.
Right.
And these were real life cases that were classified from the public, and it's really exciting because viewers can fall in love with certain cases and then do more research on their own later on, because that is out there. So it's really going to open a lot of people's eyes.
Right. Now, in playing the wife of the main character, who's the the scientist assigned to this, do you come at it as, I'm just a typical housewife, I'm raising my family, I shouldn't be skeptic of anything, or does some of that kind of creep in as you go along with the first season?
My character specifically?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's difficult to remain a skeptic when your husband is suddenly, roped into this project through the Air Force, and he's investigating UFOs. That's a kind of a scary reality check in a way, right? And the introduction of Project Blue Book in the Hynek home is not an easy transition, we'll just say. I think Mimi starts to wonder how much of a threat Project Blue Book will really be to her family fairly quickly.
Well, especially when you start to figure out that some of the people you meet are not on the up and down.
Right.
We're not going to say anything beyond that. We don't want to,
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
Right. So, I do have to ask, because The X-Files is probably the one show that really brought this into mainstream pop culture.
Sure.
How much of an influence from that show do you have on this?
Listen, I loved The X-Files, and I always thought that The X-Files was at its best when it explored the deep mystery and cover up, and really focused on its sort of main storyline. Obviously, they had to do 22 episodes a season, so
Sure.
they have to do these one-off episodes where it's it's the werewolf episode this week.
The monster of the week.
Right, exactly. And listen, I completely get that. I completely understand that. And I loved that show growing up. I think for us, what's different about our show is that every case is real. We are the real life X-Files in a certain respect. So every week,
Right.
audience members can look at the case and be like, wait, did that really happen? And yes, you can go and Google it. And in fact, I think we're going to even help people
Right.
steer them towards that information, because we want to give people that opportunity so that they understand that while, yes, we're dramatizing certain elements, the foundation of everything we explore on the show is 100% real and documented.
Right. Well, I know that most of it kind of got debunked over its lifetime. Phenomenon, weather balloons, and all that. But there's that small percentage that is just completely unexplained. That
Oh, absolutely.
how do you?
Well, listen, they investigated over 12,000 cases. Over 700 of them were unknowns. But they also
Right.
went in, if you go back and look at the history, they would change things from possibly a weather balloon to probably a weather balloon.
Right.
Because one of the big things about Project Blue Book is it was also a PR campaign, and Dr. Alan Hynek learned that pretty early on, that, listen, to the public, this is a investigatory wing of the Air Force that's going out and looking at
Right.
unidentified flying objects. But he realized, no, what you really want us to do is explain away what people are seeing in the skies. And there are so many reports of military personnel and police officers and credible witnesses who are trained to look at the skies, who were like, I know what I saw. And then what I saw was not the answer that this program is giving. So, and he stayed on just to have access to those cases because he thought that there was really something here, and then came out as a UFO believer after the fact and devoted the rest of his life to it.
Now, before you guys came to Texas, did you know much about Texas's famous little role with Project Blue Book?
Well, we know about there's the Lubbock Lights
Yeah.
case, which is actually covered in episode 3 of the series, which is very, very exciting case on many grounds, and a great episode. So we did do some research on that particular case.
Yeah. And Texas has had a few. I mean, there was a more recent wave in Texas as well.
Yes,
So-
there was.
Yeah, so Texas has always been sort of a hot spot of UFO activity, but I think the Lubbock Lights was sort of the granddaddy of them all in terms of Texas, and so it's exciting that we get to explore one of the great cases on the show.
There's a lot of visible airspace.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
A lot of open
it's easier
sky.
to sign
Yeah.
things.
Now, we know how David comes out on it, but after doing this project, do you guys believe more in UFOs? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fairly ignorant to completely dismiss
right.
the possibility of intelligent life out there other than ourselves. I think there's something to it, and that's really something our show explores. It's one of the greatest mysteries of our time, so I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think it's just the sheer multitude of sightings from credible witnesses.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's not even a question of whether they're out there or not. It's a question of who are they, and what are they doing? What do they want? Are they versions of us? Which is some theories say that they are more humanoid than extra.
I always fall in the line of, why can't Star Trek be real?
Right.
So,
Maybe
all right.
it is.
I know, exactly. I'm
We'll start getting a lot of strange work done
Yeah.
right.
to match.
I gotta have
fit
that
in.
ear surgery.
That'd be a good look. That'd be
Yeah.
good.
So at the Nerd Show, we always like to ask everybody one final question. So this is where your inner nerd really gets to come out. If you could fight the forces of evil, if you will, by using a weapon from the nerd universe or even a superpower, what would it be for you? And we're going to start with you.
Whoa, this is a
I know,
very big.
This is always our tough question. It's like there's so much out there.
Oh, yeah, that is tricky.
Oh my goodness. And I would need a weapon of some sort.
A weapon or superpower or both.
If I could, I think the world right now needs a little bit more goodness. I'm not going to say why. I mean, there's some pretty strange things happening, especially in North America. And I'm a good old Canadian girl who really would love people to get back into the Green Party and nice little political parties like that. So if I could find a way to just
I got one for you, like
Yeah.
Poison Ivy or somebody who can control nature. Maybe you
Ah,
yeah, that's
stimulate
nice.
growth
I
in
didn't
certain
think that.
areas.
Do I
Yeah,
get a
right.
cool costume with that too?
Oh yeah,
All right,
poison
I'm
ivy. I
down.
mean, that's.
Sign me up.
I mean,
As long as
you might want to
try.
see the outfit first.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a little provocative.
Oh, no.
As a co-star, he's got to approve, make sure it's good.
That's
I
right.
approve.
Nice. Okay.
How about you, Michael?
Oh man, I mean, I was a huge. I mean, I am a nerd, a huge nerd, but I was a huge comic book fan when I was a kid. Loved X-Men and all that. I was obsessed with Gambit, who's who I wanted to be back in the day. You know.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
great.
however, I think I'd be more prone to something to do with telekinesis or telepathy or something. You know, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
nice.
know why.
You're kind of reading my mind there with speaking of telepathy, because I was going to go with
Exactly.
a bunch of ideas went through my head. I was like, you know, when you were saying peaceful, I was like, well, maybe I would, you know, my weapon of choice would be Elliot's bicycle with ET that's able to fly through the air, right? Then I thought Matrix, and I was like, yeah, stopping bullets or whatever. But I'm going to go with another Drew Barrymore movie,
lot of
Firestarter.
Wow.
And the power of pyrokinesis, right, which is the
Be a good
ability
match,
to control
man.
fire. I think that there's something really cool to that. So.
Man, you are really pulling an old movie from the vault there.
Well, those are the movies that I love. Those old '80s and early '90s,
Right.
great classic horror and sci-fi movies.
I take mine back, actually, because telepathy. I mean, man, that would get stressful.
Right.
Just think about that. I mean, God.
You would-
I'd go more maybe the teleportation route because
Yeah.
of all this traveling we do, it does make your head spin.
I always wonder that about Professor Xavier. I mean, after enough time, spending in people's heads, do you just want to write off humanity like I'm doing?
Yeah, these people are
That's-
doomed.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what's sort of great about the character, right? Is he's always on the side of he still has hope that humanity,
Right.
that there is good within us,
Yeah.
while Magneto is always
Yeah.
like they're
No,
horrible.
no.
We're horrible. Right?
Eric, you're right.
Yeah, right.
Let's